Welcome to this episode of Athletic Training Chat. This one was a pretty unique one as we got to go down to Mueller Sports Medicine, which I personally have gotten the privilege to go down to multiple times and have seen the entire campus. And if for whatever reason you find yourself in Wisconsin in the Madison area, highly recommend you reach out and try and go set up a tour. The place is awesome and you just have no idea that it's there. Based on the city it's in and what they do on a global scale. But we actually got to go up into the late owner Kurt Mueller's house, which is on the property that the company still utilizes, and sit and talk poolside to Joe Kanefsky, who is an athletic trainer who has done a lot in the collegiate setting, also has been a professor, and then worked his way into sales. And it's kind of a unique story on how he got there and how things just kind of happened to work out in order to do that. We talk a lot about things that were transferable, things that weren't, and then recommendations for people that are thinking about maybe that would be a good career change for them. So lots to take away from Joe in this episode. And if you're going out to NATA, Joe will be out there. So feel free to go to the Mueller booth and say hi to him. As always, we are powered by Mueller Sports Medicine. Check them out. You know I always got high things to say about them, and it doesn't change. If you are going out to NATA, I unfortunately won't be able to get there this year, but a lot of things that they're releasing. Richard Davis will be there. He is their mad scientist and gets a lot of great products and things moving, and will always be open to ideas that people have. But without further ado, please enjoy this episode. Welcome to this episode of Athletic Training Chat. We are on with Joe Kanefsky, and we are actually recording this episode at Mueller Sports Medicine in Prairie du Sac, Wisconsin, actually in Kurt Mueller's house that I've actually never been in before, so this is kind of a treat for me, but we'll have some tied-in video shots with all of that and just a little bit of the campus as we're going through, just because it is such a unique space. And I feel like if athletic trainers ever got a chance to visit here, you just kind of get a whole new appreciation for what Mueller does. But that being said, we're going to talk a lot with Joe just about his transition from kind of the traditional, quote-unquote, setting the university, plus getting his doctorate, to moving into the sales side and what that has all entailed. But before we get into that, I just want to turn over to you to give a little bit of background.
Sure. First of all, Joel, thanks for meeting with me. And as you said, we are in our backdrop here is our founder and owner, Kurt Mueller. He had this vision of the company, and this is part of his home, indoor pool here, so not too shabby setup. But a little bit about me. Originally from New York. Went to University of Buffalo for my undergraduate degree. Degree in exercise science. I was a student athletic trainer there for several years. From there, after graduating, I went down to Miami and went to Barry University. And did my master's in sports medicine down there. And then from there, again, once getting certified, I worked at a high school for 2 years, Coconut Creek High School in Broward County in Fort Lauderdale area of Florida. And worked a couple of years at St. Thomas University, which is in Miami, and then spent most of my professional athletic training career back at Barry University as the assistant athletic trainer and then ultimately the head athletic trainer for about 8 years before getting into the corporate world, if you will.
Sure, and we're talking in a previous conversation we had, kind of, I don't want to say dumb luck, but just like divine intervention maybe, or something along the lines of how you got moved into sales, because we were talking, I'm not going to be able to make NATA this year, which I really wanted to.
Right.
And you mentioned the 1 year that I believe you didn't get a chance to go.
Correct.
Kind of launched the opportunities,
Yeah.
if you will?
Yeah, always thought about sales or, this type of industry. And my father, he sold insurance for years, and, I was around sales. And obviously a background in athletic training, I thought about maybe medical sales. So, as you kind of alluded to, I've been attending NATA for years at that point.
Yep.
And the one year, my wife was pregnant and my son was due, and I couldn't make NATA because it was close to the due date.
Yep.
So I ended up going to another conference, a few months before to make up for the CEUs that I would miss at NATA. And I happened to strike up a conversation with at that time, a regional manager at Henry Schein. And, long story short, if you will, we talked, and he said, "Hey, we're looking for a Southeast manager. Do you know anybody?" And I basically said, "How about me?"
Fair enough.
And after a few months of interviewing, and I ended up taking the role with Henry Schein. That's kind of my first role into sales, and was there for about 4 years with Henry Schein, and from there my career went on. So yeah.
You mentioned, you had always been thinking about it, kind of grew up around some of it. What was that draw as compared to, kind of working in, we'll just use traditional in the, patient care, type setting of athletic training? Sure.
Always had kind of an entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
And, kind of love the different dynamics of talking to people, talking about products, talking about the industry. And of course we do that as athletic trainers every day.
Sure.
But there were, there was different regiments that you were, as everybody knows out there as athletic trainers, you're kind of at the mercy at times of the coaches' schedules, practice schedules, administration schedules. So this, getting into this type of industry or sales and marketing gave me a different, opportunity to do different things within the industry to help athletic trainers get the products they need to service the athletes.
What was maybe one of the biggest or most difficult, if you will, like switches into sales? You mentioned entrepreneurial, and I've actually had somebody say that to me because I've said I don't know that I would do great in sales, and they're like, "Are you kidding? Like all you do is talk about ideas and like pitching things." And I was like, "Yeah, but I'm not trying to actually like sell something."
Yeah,
like,
not that easy.
For whatever reason, like it just that's like a mental block for me.
Right.
But
yeah, it's not always that easy. I wish it was, but it's not. The biggest difference when people ask me about that, I say, the athletes, if you think of them as your customers, they come to your training room, right? The customers come to you.
That's not how it works? And
that's not how it works in this side of it. Yeah, in fact, you actually have to throw out your customers sometimes, or throw out your athletes, right? So, with sales, you have to, they call it hunting. You actually have to go out and find people to meet. So that's kind of the biggest difference is, versus people come to you, you got to go find people at times.
Sure.
So, it's a give and take, but that's kind of the biggest differences, I think, there.
I can believe that.
Yeah.
Skills that transferred from AT, you've kind of referenced some, but then also skills you needed to learn.
Yeah, good question. So a lot of skills definitely transfer because, again, athletic trainers are talking to their coaching staff, they're talking to players, whether it's, counseling them on how to rehab an injury or take care of an injury. They're talking, they're almost selling a coach like, hey, this is why your athlete should not go back in the game or should not practice this week. So you don't realize it, but you're selling them, right? And you're not selling them to try and get anything out of it. You're trying to help the athlete,
right?
And that's kind of the way I look at it with sales. What I do is to not, I'm trying to sell you a product, I'm trying to show you something new, but I'm trying to help your athlete.
Right.
I'm trying to help your athlete, get better and get back on the field. And working now with Mueller Sports Medicine, we have a lot of products to offer to do that. So a lot of the skills that I had working about 10 or 12 years as an athletic trainer definitely transferred over to what I do today, for sure. Yeah.
Getting people what they need has to be relatively fulfilling, and finding that perfect solution. What else do you find fulfilling from the sales? Because there's always the meme or the joke about the used car salesman or somebody just trying to get you everything, or as athletic trainers, I still, even now working in the clinic setting, get pitch stuff all the time that there's just no application for us and what we do, but you're getting all kinds of things. What has been the most fulfilling part of it?
There's several things, obviously, but sometimes, again, just turn on ESPN, watching a pro game or watching college sports. and seeing the products on the field that I help, facilitate, through different channels, I'm like, wow, we actually make a difference, or products that, again, we carry that I see in grocery stores or, different sporting good retail outlets that I'm like, wow, people are buying these products because it's helping them.
Right.
And to me, that's satisfying. Again, it's nothing against used cars salesmen.
Absolutely, right,
and they have a need, but, we're not, quote unquote, that mold of just selling something to sell it, to make a buck. It's satisfying to know the products we sell are helping the athletes.
Would you say, from the different things, you worked at a couple of different places. You mentioned Henry Schein, Game Ready.
Yep.
Now at Mueller, and we don't have to get into any specifics of everything, but
sure.
Kind of talk maybe about the intentionality behind each company of like finding the things that people actually need and want. That's something I know when I do the intros to our episodes and I talk about Mueller is that in my experience, I've only worked 2 hours away, so I obviously had a much easier connection. But
sure.
If you've got an idea, they will, Richard or whoever you're talking to will definitely listen to it.
Right.
Talk about the feasibility. What's obviously the scalability is an important thing, but
right.
How does that transfer, from what you have from the sales side, obviously doing a little bit more than that with your background, I'm sure, in AT, and what ultimately gets put out into production?
Yeah, so we have a process called stage gate where we actually, everybody's got ideas.
Yep.
Right? And there's a lot of great ideas out there. There's a lot of quirky ideas that turn into great ideas.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's where it's got to start, with an idea. And we, there's so many ideas that come to us, to Mueller and, other companies too. Imagine a company like Walmart or something, how many people want to pitch their products, right? So for us at Mueller, we have a process where the idea comes in. You basically kind of email it to, a certain area. It gets evaluated, and then we have meetings about how to kind of narrow down what makes sense for the market.
Yep.
And there's financial implications too. If you're just going to sell one of something, or you're going to sell 100,000 of them,
right.
So you got to, there is a financial component to it for sure. So that's the balancing act between when a new idea comes in and whether it comes to fruition as a new product that Mueller will carry or not.
Sure.
Yeah.
That makes total sense. Misconceptions you've seen from the sales side, mainly if you could kind of gear this to the athletic trainer that maybe is getting a little burned out in their role.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of that on social media. By the time this comes out, it'll probably be within the last couple weeks of people leaving because and just a laundry list of reasons. But
sure.
Obviously, there's only so many sales positions, but misconceptions that you've seen around it.
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned earlier, like that used car salesman mentality, I think is one of them where, again, someone's just trying to sell you snake oil to make a buck.
Right.
I think a lot of especially the medical device sales people or marketing people, they're here to help. They're here to help the athletic trainer. They're here to help a physical therapist, a clinician, to help treat their patient and get them back to whether it's an athletic field or get them back to work, whatever it is. So I think a little bit misconception is it's all about just trying to make the sale and make a buck, where of course, everybody's got to make a living, no question.
Yep.
But really, these products come to fruition because they're here to help the athlete, or the general population, in Mueller's case, because we sell a product.
Definitely. Yeah, you guys have a wide spectrum.
Yeah.
How has that shifted? Whether you want to say we're still in the pandemic or not, we'll leave that up for other people to debate.
Maybe
but
on
obviously,
the backside, hopefully, of the pandemic.
Hopefully on the backside, I think that's fair to say. But obviously there was a big downshift in everything where it all got shut down. But then how are things kind of maybe changed for you since then? Conventions are finally getting up and going again.
Yep.
We'll see how that kind of continues to play out with who knows, but
yeah. The pandemic's been a challenge for everybody, right? No question. I mean, it's been a challenge, on personal lives. It's been a challenge for professional lives, financial, government, you name it, right? It threw a curveball. And especially in sports, usually, when there's an economic issue going on in the world, right, or crisis, a stock market.
Sure.
Usually sports has always been immune to that, right? Everybody still loves to watch sports.
Yeah.
And whether it's professional sports, college sports, high school sports, pee-wee leagues. So all of a sudden the pandemic hit and that went away. no, whether it was Pee Wee League or professional league. I remember I saw when they said the NBA suspended their season almost 2 years ago now. I think it was around 2 years ago now, and it was like, wow, this is real. This is no joke. And of course, from Mueller's standpoint, or medical sales, right, or all industries, sales stop because you don't need those products at the moment, right? I'm not taping any ankles right now, so I don't need to get tape.
Right.
or use rehab equipment or whatever it is. So that definitely threw things for a loop. Of course, now we're seeing supply chain issues as the backside of COVID comes. Because a lot of products weren't being produced for a while. So again, now we're seeing, if you want to get, whatever type of product coming in, you might have to wait that much longer. From our products to cars to, you go to Walmart or the grocery stores and you see all these empty shelves. It's because of supply chain issues.
We're running into it with baby formula, of all things.
Perfect
example. That's something we're stockpiling as much as we can, as we've got one coming here.
And diapers and things like that, where you're like, well, that's, who'd ever thought we'd have a shortage? But again, because of the pandemic, things were being produced, and now it's stopped for a while, and now we're trying to catch up. And it's going to take a while. Yeah, so that's where Mueller, again, luckily we had different supply outlets. The way we met, where we got our manufacturing from and things like that. So we're able to get a pretty good supply chain, but there's challenges.
Absolutely.
No question. So
we kind of talked about misconceptions, but what advice would you specifically have for somebody looking to get in, start making connections, talking to vendors? What would you recommend? Get lucky to meet somebody at a convention, which is ultimately, I feel like, the way most things seem to happen. That's how I got really connected up with Mueller and got to do some things. That's one of the ways. Again, I knew this representative. We started talking. We became friends. And again, he asked me that question. Do you know anybody who's looking for this type of role? And if I wasn't thinking about it or wanted to get in that industry, I would have probably just referred him to somebody else. But I personally wanted to try this out. And here I am today. But I would say, kind of alluding to that, is when you go to conventions or you're talking to people, get to know your vendors. If that's something you want to get into, you think eventually, or try it out. When you're walking around the NATA convention hall and there's hundreds of vendors, check out everything, introduce yourself, find out what the products are all about or services are about, and get to know some of these people. Absolutely.
And again, if you want to get into that field, and then you ultimately would find out if they have positions available, whether entry level or higher level positions based on your experience. That's one way. I mean, there's so much social media now and job postings with Facebooks and LinkedIn's and stuff. So there's a lot of avenues out there. If you're an athletic trainer in a specific setting and you feel like you want to try something else, again, take a shot at it. And it may not work out, and you can go back to hopefully a good setting as an athletic trainer or a clinician. But if you want to get into sales, marketing, or the industrial side, or corporate side. Again, meeting people, like in any situation, is going to help.
I can attest to that. It opened up a lot of doors just by randomly having a conversation and making a couple connections.
Absolutely, doing what you're doing here with the podcast. And stuff. You're meeting everybody.
As I've mentioned multiple times on this thing, selfishly, it has introduced me to more people than I could ever have met. And that's to connect.
When I first start, as a certified athletic trainer, I'm reading the NATA news, right? And I'm like, oh, there's the president of whatever. I'm a little older than you, so back in the early '90s and stuff. But I'm like, oh, President so-and-so, man, it'd be cool. Now here I am meeting these people at conventions and shaking hands with them. And, actually they're coming to me to, help, make, sponsorships or, I say deals, but that's not like the right word.
I gotcha, Partnerships.
Partnerships, work to, collaborate together.
Yes, absolutely.
That's probably the better word. So it went from just reading about some of the leadership with NATA and BOC to, hey, I got their cell phone and we could talk about different things with athletic training to help the clinicians ultimately.
Fantastic.
Anything
else around kind of making that transition to sales or that shift in your career? Obviously, is this something you see yourself kind of doing till the end?
Hopefully, Okay. I think so. I mean, I do have a PhD. I persevered and got my PhD in higher education administration. And I'm still a certified athletic trainer, and it's still my passion. and maybe it's something I go back to before I retire.
Sure.
But as of right now, I guess I'm in the heat of my career and in leadership and management with Mueller. So it's something that the foreseeable future is something I plan to stay with and help Mueller grow and come out with new innovative products. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to cover before we jump into the athletic training chat questions?
I think that's it. Yeah. No. And again, I appreciate you inviting me to do this podcast. Yeah. And again, great background here at our founder Kurt Mueller's house with the pool. But let's jump into the questions.
Curious from your side, just because we haven't had anybody really from the sales, kind of that side or the other side of athletic training. Where do you see the profession going in the next 5 to 10 years?
That's a great question, and I've already seen an evolution. Again, I've been certified personally for about 25 years, since the mid 90s, and I've seen an evolution, from the curriculum standpoint, to the practicality standpoint, to the way athletic trainers are mentioned in the media. And now watching ESPN, they're using athletic trainer versus trainer. Those little things make a difference.
Yeah.
And I think the profession is going to continue to evolve. We'll probably see more third-party reimbursement, I think. There's definitely more athletic trainers working in clinics and whether it's physical therapy clinics, physician extenders. I think that there'll be more of that as we move forward. Hopefully athletic trainers can continue to get more recognized in allied health professions. I know it's still a struggle in some states.
Right.
But hopefully over time with lobbying and legislation, that'll continue to evolve. And athletic trainers will be thought of in general as again an elite allied health profession within the industry. So I think that's going to evolve.
I like it.
Yeah.
What advice would you give yourself as a young athletic trainer, and if you could kind of set us in where you were in your career, and that you would go back and give that advice?
Yeah, that's another good question. Take some more chances. Although I did throughout my career, took some risks and chances, and I say that by again meeting different people. Don't be afraid to try different things. Different techniques. Go to more seminars if I could to learn more.
Yep. And
it's challenging to get everywhere, but again, it's a little easier now with everything being online.
Right.
And again, a little older than you. When I was, early 90s, online, emails and internet was first coming about.
Yeah.
So now you can kind of Google anything and pull it up. But my advice to myself would just kind of be more open-minded and explore everything, whether it was taping techniques or how to do a rehab or manipulation, whatever whatever I'm doing. That's kind of my advice I'd give to myself.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What has been the most influential resource you have found in your career? And maybe if you could do one when you were in kind of more clinical practice versus now that you're on the sales side, if there's a difference in any of the resources. Yeah,
that's a good question. I think when I was first certified or as an athletic training student, I looked to my mentors, my head athletic trainer at the time, our program directors. Those were my resources, right? And again, we didn't have social media and everything we have today. Not that I'm ancient, but it was evolving then.
Yeah, I still remember Facebook when I was in college, early 2000s, and I was like, this is dumb. Never worked out. Which is why I don't invest in tech, because I would have...
Who'd ever thought we'd have electric cars?
Right.
And now it's coming a commonplace. But those were the resources. Again, the people were my resources. And again, attending the trade shows, because I started going to NATA when I was, I think my first one was like late 90s as a student, as a master's student. And I'm like, holy cow, there's a lot of people out here to meet, and a lot of knowledge, and a lot of things to share.
Yeah.
And that was, as a young athletic trainer, that's what I used as my resources. Just meeting all these different folks in the industry.
Perfect.
Yeah, and then as I got older, now again, social media, emails. There's just so much information that I try to how do I stay in a lane long enough to be successful at it, because there's just so much information.
Gotcha. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
As an AT in your role, how do you take care of yourself? And we haven't talked about it a ton, but I know you're busy all over the country. You said you currently reside in Florida.
I'm in Florida.
And you're up in Wisconsin.
Correct.
For a week. So how do you kind of take care of yourself with the busy schedule, and you were also, I'm not even sure where WFAT was.
In Winnipeg, Canada.
So at least you were on the continent.
I was on the continent, yeah.
But yeah, you've been around and
My
busy.
passport's been stamped a few times.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
So, since coming to Mueller, I have more of a global position. So, again, I help, with sales and marketing all around the world. And we have a team of people. It's not just me by any means. But got a chance to travel to Medica, got a chance to go to Germany last year and England. And, again, up in Winnipeg, Canada last week. Here in Wisconsin, and my home base is Florida. But yeah, it's a challenge at times. I do try and work out, if you will, a few times a week.
Yeah.
I won't lie. There's times I don't. And then, of
Understand
course,
that.
you're on the road eating good food and everything. So I was an athlete. I played college baseball, and I was actually a springboard diver. So I grew up as an athlete.
Sure.
and know the importance of taking care of your body. So yeah, it's a challenge, but I think you got to, listen, everybody preaches it. You got to make time and kind of dedicate yourself a little bit, a little bit every week to make sure you're taking care of your, what I call home base, your body, to be successful.
I like it.
Yeah.
If you could change or eliminate one thing, could be a modality, a common practice, a mindset, or anything of your choosing within the field of athletic training, what would it be?
It's not something specific. I just think sometimes I visit a lot of athletic trainers all over the country, and not only athletic trainers, physical therapists, chiropractors, physicians, because we kind of call on everybody. But specifically with athletic trainers, sometimes I see them doing the same thing they've done for 20 years,
Sure.
Or 30 years, and you go and they have, sometimes there's budget challenges. I get that.
Absolutely.
But sometimes there's same techniques that they work, but hey, things have advanced over the last 20 something years. So I would like to, again, going back to being more open-minded, exploring different techniques, different ways to treat things, whether it's using lasers or ultrasound or compression units, or using good old-fashioned hands, right?
Sure.
We have all these tools, but just to kind of explore the latest and greatest. And hey, if it doesn't work, then go back to what you're used to and what works for you, no question. But I just feel like, man, that I'll go and see this athletic trainer, and I'm like, you're still doing it that way? It's like, we have high definition now. You don't have to watch the black and white TV.
Sure.
And they just don't. Again, sometimes budget constraints.
Absolutely.
Which you can't help. But other times they haven't gotten out of that box. So I'd like to see those folks kind of open their eyes a little bit more and let some new information come in.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Final question. What does being an athletic trainer mean to you?
Ultimately, it's helping not just athletes, but people. Yeah, and that's why I kind of got into it back then. Of course, you're like, oh, you want to be a doctor, or, I always wanted to do something in the medical profession. I just wasn't sure what it was. But I had a love for sports, and I think most athletic trainers out there probably have some cross between a love for sports and athletics and somewhere in the medical profession. If you kind of do a survey of all the athletic trainers, there'll probably be some of that common denominator there. But yeah, it really just about, again, seeing those, when I was an athletic trainer in the university, I would see, wow, look at that guy running now, and he had ACL surgery, a couple of months ago, and now he's up and running, or he or she's up and running. And I help that, and that's kind of what it means to me is helping those folks get back to activity, and even today what I do is these products that I help sell and market, is helping those athletes get back to what they love doing and playing their sport.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Anything else you wanted to share before we ask where people could get in touch with you if they wanted to?
Well, I'm usually on the road, so if you want to find me physically, I'm usually traveling all over the place. But, as a global person. But listen, here at Mueller Sports Medicine now for the last 2 years, a great company, great products, and really trying to help the industry. Everybody can link and Google me easily.
Perfect.
My name. So yeah, if you go on LinkedIn, you'll find me, and
we'll link that up.
Yeah, link that up, and be happy to. It might take me a little bit to get back to you if I'm traveling, but I'll definitely get back to you. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely.
For getting me a new sightseeing adventure on this. It's pretty awesome. So
pretty cool, huh? Yeah.
Appreciate it.
You got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for checking out this episode of Athletic Training Chat. We hope you enjoyed it. A lot of good things to take away from Joe, especially if you're thinking about ever getting into the sales aspect of the profession and all the opportunities that provides. We're just getting, within a couple days of this episode being released, getting our second Throw a Lifeline campaign out to a very deserving athletic trainer. Some emergency supplies with the kit supplied by Mueller Sports Medicine, and we will then be set to get going on our third one, which we already have some money allocated to get that one up and going. If you're interested in helping out with that, throwing any kind of donation along the way, please check out clinicalpress.com/throwaway-lifeline, or just continue to listen to the podcast, get more people listening to the podcast. Any revenue that we generate from it 100% goes to fulfilling these Throw a Lifeline kits. We greatly appreciate you guys taking the time to listen, and we'll talk to you soon.